Hi, thanks for joining us on Douglas County Mom. I'm your host, Robin Bond. Today we're at the Castle Creek Bakery in Castle Rock, Colorado, and we're going to talk to 3 moms about being an empty nester, the good, the bad, and the surprising about what happens when the kids leave home. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoy the show. Hi, Janet. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for joining us today. As you know, we're going to be talking about empty nesters and kind of the good, the bad, and the surprising about what happens when your kids leave home. It seems like, particularly with women, this kind of period of life sort of sometimes takes us by surprise. And so wanted to kind of find out what your experiences have been and find out a little bit about where you're at with your family. Kelly, tell me, how old are your children?
22, 19, 18, and 17.
Okay, so, and do you still have one
Two
at home?
2 out.
Okay.
2 on their way out.
Okay.
So 2 still home.
Okay. And tell me sort of what was your experience when your kids started leaving home?
Well, when the first one left home, she was leaving in August. I came to her in July and I said, exactly what day are you leaving? Because I need to know what I'm going to do with your bedroom. She's like, Mom, that's so not cool. I'm like, well, okay, but when are you leaving? With the second one, much more sentimental. Not pushing her out the door, which really made the first one angry. How come she doesn't get pushed out the door? Why does she still have a bedroom and I don't? You know, and wishing that I hadn't pushed the first one out so easily. But what I have found is that you get the best of your kids when they move out. You really do. When they come home, they want to be there. They're engaged in what's going on with you. They want to know what's going on with you. While they're still home, they're engaged in themselves. So our experience, my husband's and mine, is that we get the best when they come back.
Now, tell me, you brought in 2 new children as your children were leaving. Tell me a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. The first one was a girl. It was short term. Her name's Rachel. She was in need, and we had the ability to help her, and so we did. She's still very tightly connected with us, but now lives in New York. The second one is a boy, Garrett. Absolutely a joy, has brought more to our family than we have given to him. It's just true. He's still with us, and we're encouraging him to make strides forward, but things have been difficult for him. So.
Now, did you find yourself reaching out to more children as your kids were getting older, or did it just happen that way?
I did not plan on this, no. But sometimes when doors are open to you, you know you're supposed to walk through them. And even if it's not easy, we're called to help other people, and so that's what happened for us.
Now, Janet, tell me kind of how long have your kids been out on their own?
Well, they've come in and out. So they've gone out on their own, and sometimes they come back home.
Is that a good thing?
Not particularly. So, but my kids have been gone from the home and a real empty nester for about 5 years.
What was maybe the most surprising thing about when your kids left? I mean, were you excited? Were you disappointed? Did you have too much free time?
I did not have too much free time. I had to tone down my life and get rid of busyitis so I could have more free time. The most exciting thing was to spend time with my husband again, one-on-one.
That's nice to hear, because sometimes you hear that all of a sudden you're sitting there looking at your spouse going, wow, I've never had to spend this much time with you before.
True.
So what is it like after all those years when you finally get to spend time alone with your husband and get to know them again?
It's way fun because you don't have everyone else's schedule demanding your time. And so if you decide, hey, let's go to dinner tonight, we get to go to dinner tonight. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to plan everything out. We can do lots more spontaneous activity than we used to do.
You know, I'm thinking that maybe some moms with younger children, which I have younger children, might be wondering if you often regret kind of wishing it away. I mean, do you ever feel like when they were younger, you were going, gosh, if they were only older, and then you get there and you kind of wish you had relished it a little bit more? Does that come up at all?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. If you could do it over, you would. You don't get that chance. I get the chance to do it over with grandchildren right now.
How many grandchildren do you have?
9.
Wow. Okay. So
Nine.
you get to see a lot of them?
I do. The grandchildren that live here in Colorado, in Denver, I see them weekly on a date. I take them on a date weekly.
That's awesome.
The grandchildren that live in Texas, I get to see them every other month or about every 3 or 4 months.
Okay. Great. Now, Kelly, tell me about your situation. Were you like dying to get back to work, or were there things you wanted to do once the kids were out of the house?
Well, interestingly enough, I've always worked in a job that allowed me to parent enough. I don't know how moms that go full-time and then try to parent and be a wife on top of that do that. I don't know. So I've always worked in jobs that allowed me to be at home more than work. When 2 years ago, my husband decided to open his own business, and I am helping him in that, which has required me to go to work a lot more. Prior to my kids being ready to go, I don't think that I could have done that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've been thrown into full-time, if not more than that, work, which definitely fills up those hours of, oh, what should I do, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm very involved in the school and in the Chamber of Commerce, and a lot of things. So.
Okay. And then, Janet, when you said you closed your business, so you don't work, but you sound like you're very busy.
I am.
What kind of activities do you get to do now?
Well, I really like physical activity. So I spend a lot of time working out. I've taken up yoga, I've taken up Pilates, I've got a road bike. I like to do those kind of things. I like to be outside moving. So that's given me a lot of freedom. I could bike all day if I could.
Were those things you got to do when your kids were younger, or not as much?
I found time for them. Mm-hmm. They were important enough that I found time for them, yeah.
Now, do you all do any kind of volunteering, community service type stuff?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of volunteering with my church.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same.
Now, getting back to this whole thing of like your relationship with your husband, I talked to you a little bit about Janet. What's it like now that your kids are kind of almost gone? I mean, do you get to do a lot more together?
We do, and one of the things that I consciously made a decision to do was to rediscover who we were. Mm-hmm. And learn who he is, because he's changed so much in 22 years. So I realized that one day I thought, when all the kids are gone, it's going to be so quiet. So we enrolled in a marriage enrichment seminar, and we spent the weekend in a marriage enrichment seminar, redefining what our goals were together, because they've changed now. And we're excited about our times together intimately, not being interrupted or having kids knock on the door or walk past your bedroom or whatever. We're excited about that. And I think that we've never actually get to sit in bed on Saturday morning and dip Oreo cookies, because they steal them, But now we get to do that. And so we're excited. We're excited about that aspect.
Now, I guess, do you guys have anything that you would say to young moms about looking toward the future?
Yeah, don't leave him behind, for one. Realize that the best mom is one that loves her husband first and sticks. And I would say, don't push the babies too fast. They grow up. There's a new song somebody does, Kenny Chesney, I think. It says, don't blink. So true. In 5 minutes, everything's changed. So enjoy, when Oreos are going across the floor and peanut butter's upside down on the counter, and the whole world feels like it's coming apart. It's so temporal.
Really?
Yeah.
Because that's the number one thing I think of, is what is it going to be like when nobody's trashing my house anymore?
Yeah.
And isn't that kind of nice to come home and have
It's
your house
really
look like
nice.
the way you left it in the
Yeah,
morning?
it's really nice, but husbands can be messy too, so there's still plenty to do.
It's a different kind of messy, right?
It's a different kind of messy.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm storing up my barn with things that are going to renovate my home. I mean, I'm buying them. They're in the barn.
Things that won't get broken.
No, like sinks and carpet. And yeah, the second the kids are all gone, we're ripping the carpets. We're totally gutting the house, you know, and redoing things. Because we can then, you know. I'm going to get a new sofa because the boys tend to go over the back of the sofa when they're wrestling, you know. I will finally replace the lamp in the living room that's been broken for 2 years that the boys broke in a pillow fight. You know, I mean, I'm excited about those things.
Jen's got 9 grandchildren. I'm imagining things in your house
Yeah.
get destroyed still,
It's
right?
really crazy when they're all together, but it's really fun. And the older you get, the more you appreciate and cherish those crazy moments and all the noise and all the activity, because you can see that everything you poured into them is coming back to you in the love and relationships that they're able to have with them, each other.
Oh, that is
So,
nice.
I mean, you can stand back a little and just cherish everything that's going on around you.
That's very nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Well,
It's a good place to be.
Well, thank you, Janet and Kelly. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'm going to be joined by author Susan Holleran. Thanks for watching. You're watching Douglas County Mom.
It was as if she was seeing the world for the first time and could once again see the infinite possibilities
and boundless potential.
You're watching the Network DC, Douglas County Television.
Welcome back to Douglas County Mom. We're talking about empty nesters today, and I am joined now by Susan Holleran, who is the author of the book, Who Am I Now When the Kids Leave Home? Thanks for joining me, Susan.
Thanks, Robin. Actually, it's not a book yet. It's still in manuscript form, but I'm hoping in March to have it published. So, but
Now, is this your first full-length book?
It is. I've written a children's book.
Okay.
Grandma Carrie Sandwiches, and I've done a lot of children's articles for periodicals, and also done stories. But yeah, this is my first one for women, and it's been fun.
Now, tell me, what is the book about?
It deals with my journey as a mom who has both sons gone now. And when the last one left home, it was pretty devastating for me. I thought I was prepared after the first one. It didn't seem, but when my last one left, it was just very much an empty house. And it's probably because I'd been a teacher for all those years. And so when my kids were home, their friends were usually, in and around our house a lot, in and out. So I missed the activity. I missed having all the kids in and out all the time. And I just really didn't want to do what I'd done in the past. I didn't want to really teach any longer. I did that all through my kids' growing years, walked home with them, and that was awesome. But I no longer desired to do those same things. I wanted something new, something fresh, and I was completely confused as to what that was. So I started writing things down and kind of journaling. And through that, I realized that there was a book there, that there were other moms who were going to identify with what I was going through, and I wanted to be able to share my journey with them.
Now, in addition to journaling about your experience, was that kind of your next career move, was to become a writer?
Actually, I had been a writer when my kids were going through school, but I didn't really get the time, to sit down and really work on a full manuscript. Writing for children was always such a challenge, and I love that. But my dream was always to be able to write for women, to be able to take my life experiences, and in hopes that would help other women. So.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people probably think, oh, I'd like to try to write a book someday when I had time and the kids are gone. So. But you weren't immediately just relishing this free time when the kids left.
No, I was not. I really didn't like the fact that I didn't have, a lot of kids around me. And I think kids are the best part of this world.
Right.
So for me, and that's probably why I went into teaching to begin with, but for me, I was devastated. I came home to a house that was deafening. There were no dirty socks on the steps. There were no dishes piled in the sink. There was no music descending from, the stairs. It was a very eerie feeling. And so it hit me hard. Now, my friends that you spoke to, Jen and Kelly, not at all. I know Kelly was at my home one day when she said, snap out of it. You've got all this time for the first time, and think of all the wonderful things you can do with it. And she was right, and it was an amazing time, an amazing journey for me, because I realized that there's always more in store, and every stage of life has its beauty. And so I just needed to find that next stage. I just needed to find where that was, and I think through my writing, it naturally brought me to that place. And through my writing, I found it very healing for me, that I could just spew all this out and feel like now that's behind me and I can go on.
So what were some of the specific steps maybe that you took to kind of get back into being your own person once the kids
Well,
left?
actually, I took a drastic step. My husband and I went to Africa. We went to West Africa, Senegal, to work with some children there at Arms of Love. And it was such a blessing for us. It was, to say it was life-changing doesn't do it justice. I was transformed through that experience. And working with those children made me realize how many needy children there are everywhere, right there at home. And so I thought, boy, I can still continue to work with children in that capacity. I can still be able to share a mother's love with all those children that are so needing everywhere. In fact, in the last chapter of my book, I discussed that very topic of, the fact that I think the chapter is entitled Places in the Heart. I named all my chapters after movies because I'm a real movie nut and I have a theater background. So all my chapters are named after movie titles. But in Places in the Heart, I discuss that, the fact that we have so many places in our heart as a mother. And we go through different stages, from pre-kids to with kids to post-kids. And I think, you know, being able to reach out to kids in need, and Kelly, you know, spoke to you about doing just that. And I know there are so many needing children right in the U.S. right now who need a home, who need that love and care. So I've been mentoring a lot of young youth, and it's been more of a blessing for me than it has for them. I think I want to go through life as being a person who never gets used up. And so I just look forward now to all that is ahead of me. And having my husband at home with me now is such a treasure, because we didn't always get the time to get into conversation. We didn't always get the time to just do things together. And I think we'd forgotten what that was like.
And he, I guess, shares your passion for volunteering.
He does.
With these
He
children.
actually went with me to Africa with our missions group, and he did a lot of soccer over there with the kids. It was a time when they worked a lot with the youth out there, and it was, for him, as much of a blessing as it was for me. And I think dads go through it in a different way.
Really?
I think Tom went through it as well, the empty nester. He just wasn't as vocal about it or as emotional about it.
Right.
But he would get very quiet, you know, and I could always tell that, you know, when he was really missing our kids. So, in fact, he could probably write his own book. But I think for women, we take things to the heart a lot more. And because we're nourishers, you know, we nourish our kids through life. And so when they're gone, you almost feel like a piece of you is missing.
Is there any way, looking back, that you might have been able to be more prepared and not be so surprised or devastated, as you said, when you
Yes,
left?
I think so, Robin. I think I told myself I was prepared, but I found out quickly that I was not. And yeah, I think I could have done some things. I was still subbing in the schools, and I was still, you know, doing things outside of the home. But I still think that I have a friend, Carla, who went through the same thing. And I think what happens is you get so used to being Josh's mom or Zach's mom, or and after a while you kind of lose your own identity, and you're trying to find the you that used to be. And so only you can do you. No one else is qualified for the job. So I know that there was more you to come, and it was just, I'd forgotten some of the things that were my passion before I had my children. And for the first time, all the acting and the writing and the things that I had to kind of fit into, you know, squeeze in with their schedule opened up. And so I was able to do a lot more. But if you asked me if I could go back in time and have my kids still there, yeah, I would have loved to have frozen them in time from about age 5 to about age 10, because really for me that was a favorite time to be living. But I'll have other kids from 5 to 10 now that I can, you know, bring in and mentor and be there for. And so that makes me feel like I still have many uses.
What would you tell mothers of younger children? I mean, would you give them any advice, or do you have any insights that you could share about enjoying the time now, or keeping a piece of themselves, or what would you tell moms of young children?
I would tell them to seize the moment and never take advantage of it. I think what happens is we get so busy thinking that we have to do things that we forget what's right in front of our faces. And I think our children grow up so quickly and so fast. And there's a scene in the movie Father of the Bride with Steve Martin, where his daughter's sitting there at the table telling her dad she's going to get married. She met a guy in
and she
Paris.
becomes a little girl.
Yes, and all of a sudden he sees her with pigtails and a toothless grin. And that's what happens when you blink, because they grow up. And you have to seize that moment and really be in the moment. Enjoy the moment, whether it's spilling stuff on the floor, or a story that's being told in the car, or them coming home and just being so excited to tell you about what happened at school. Take the time, because you don't get those moments back. That moment's gone forever. So I tell my young moms that I mentor to just enjoy the present. Don't think so much into the future. Enjoy that day. And I was blessed in that I did get to do that with my children. Before I started teaching, they were young and preschool age, and I was home with them. So I remember the first word, and I remember the first step, and that to me is, I'll cherish that forever.
Did you ever spend much time thinking about this period in your life, or did it just arrive?
This period right now?
This period that you're in right now.
I didn't. It just kind of arrived. It just kind of happens, because life surprises you that way. When you least expect it, and it just kind of creeps up on you that all of a sudden, whoa, you've raised your children. And okay, now what? You know, what's next? And then my mother has been a great inspiration to me, because when we all left home, she had 4 of us. And she continued to teach, and she continued to work in the community and volunteer and do a lot of melodrama directing, and she was very much active. And so I think if Mom can do it, I can do it. You know, I'm okay with moving on. Really am. So.
Now, when in you know, talking to different women and researching your book, I mean, did you find that there were certain types of women that kind of glided more easily into this phase? Women that worked more, women that worked less?
I don't think it really revolved too much around work. I think it just, I think some women married very young, and they had their children right away. So when their children left, they were still young.
Right.
And they were still ready to want to be able to get out and do things with their life. I think my sister is a perfect example. She had her children right away. And I think that, you know, I waited 7 years, and I was able to really be ready to have my kids. So when they were there, I was just so ready to be a mother. Whereas with my sister, you know, she had children so soon. And I think, you know, once I left home, she was so ready to do some things that she had wanted to do.
That she hadn't done in her earlier years.
That she hadn't gotten in her early years, because she went right into being married and having family. So, and then I have other mothers who, I have one mother who listens to a CD every day in Italian. She's learning Italian because she's planning on going to Italy the day her Caitlin graduates. She and her husband have planned this trip to Italy for the last 4 or 5 years. And once Caitlin's out the door, her whole, you know, future is getting to Italy and getting to travel and getting to see things that she's dreamed about seeing her whole life. And she is literally counting the days when she can sip tea on the porch and not make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches anymore. So everybody takes it differently. For some reason, I went through a period of time when I felt a lot of emptiness.
So now that you've come through it, though, what's the best part about being where you're at right now?
I think the freedom and the peace, and knowing that I gave my all, I did my best, and that maybe I wasn't perfect, and nothing ever is, but I had raised 2 kids, and I can look at them now and think, by the grace of God, they turned out the way they did. And that gives me a sense of real peace, and knowing that now it's my turn again. And so now I can focus on my husband and our life together and grandchildren.
I was going to say, how do you feel about the prospect of
Grandchildren?
So you are eager for grandchildren?
I am.
Okay.
I can't wait to have grandkids. And, you know, I waited 7 years to have my first, so I am by no means ever going to be that person who pressures, you know, my kids into doing that. But if they should happen to listen and hear that I want grandchildren, I'm ready. But yeah, so I look forward to that very much, and to just spoiling them rotten and then letting them go home. You know, which is exactly what my parents did with my kids, and now I'm going to give that back.
It's a revenge thing.
It's a
isn't
revenge
it?
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I look forward to that, and grandparenting is a whole different thing.
Now tell me how we can find out when or where your book gets published.
I will, well, actually, Robin, I will let you know. There is a public, Wine Press is one that's interested in it, and I am going to be submitting, you know, to a few of them, and depending on the time frame, you know, I have to know by March. I would let you know.
Okay.
And I would love to come back when I have my book in hand, and be able to, you know, emote some of the chapters and things. But so I'm hoping by March it'll be completed.
Do you have
and
any
in
more?
published form?
Any more books to follow?
I do. I have There's No Nose Blowing in Heaven, which is a book for kids.
Okay.
I have a lot of kids who get sick in school, and so that was something that has been in my file for quite a long time. So there's always ideas. There's all these ideas, and now I have time. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Susan, for
Thanks,
joining us
Robin.
today.
Thank
and
you.
thank you for watching. You've been watching Douglas County Mom. We're at the Castle Creek Bakery in Castle Rock, Colorado. And remember, you can check us out online at www.dc8.us.